guys, welcome back to the shop. Yes, I do actually have a face. No, you're not going to see it very often. But unfortunately, today's topic does involve you being able to see all of them. We're going to be talking about hammer technique. Now, this is different from forging technique, and I've seen, unfortunately, a couple of videos up on YouTube that say the hammer technique, when in actual fact, the forging technique. Not going to name any names, but if, like me, you watch a lot of blacksmithing videos on YouTube, you'll probably guess what I'm talking about. Hammer technique, as I was taught, is how you swing your hammer. Manipulating material is forging technique. So, this is going to be about as back to basics a video as you can get, because we're going to be talking about how to hold, how to swing, and how to get this to this in the most efficient and speedy way possible. Obviously, you're not always going to be trying to swing your hammer as fast and as hard as you possibly can, but if I give you a few of the techniques that I was shown and that I know, then basically you can cherry pick and decide which is going to be the best option for you. And ultimately that is what this is going to boil down to. How I swing a hammer might be totally different to how somebody else swings a hammer. If it works for you, works for you. Okay? All I'm trying to do here is to show you the variations thereof. Alright? So, we've got a blacksmith's turning hammer, sometimes referred to by our brethren overseas as a rounding hammer. When it comes to where on the hammer to hold, different schools of thought. Some guys like to hold the hammers right down at the bottom end because they believe it gives them a larger arc, so the hammer will travel further, and because the hammer travels further, it can pick up more speed. Some guys like myself will hold the hammer around about in the middle, and some guys will hold the hammers right up at the top. Now this is known as choking the hammer. If you imagine that this is the head, these are the cheeks, right here is the neck. So holding it up there is choking. People naturally tend to do this when their arm starts to get tired, and you'll notice it yourself if you keep half an eye on what you're actually doing. I like to hold my hammer right about the halfway mark. Back in the day, one of the old guys told me that when he was an apprentice, some smiths used to actually drill down into the bases of the handles and put in a lead slug to act as a counterbalance, because obviously that is a very top heavy object, so you're having to overcome that weight. Now people talk about rebound, using the rebound to catch the hammer, pick it back up again. When you're hitting hot steel, what you're wanting is all of that energy to go into the steel. You will get a small amount of rebound, but it is literally minimal. However, as any scientist will tell you, the hardest thing to get an object moving is the moment of inertia, the initial start of shifting that thing from a dead stop. So any rebound does reduce the amount of effort it takes to pick that hammer back up. If you're holding your hammer right out here, then that small amount of rebound is not going to be enough to stop you from still needing to lever this up to then get another strike in. In the middle, it's slightly less, and of course, up near the neck, it's even less than that. However, if you're right up at the neck, then that distance is reduced, and therefore the amount of travel distance you've got to build up speed is reduced. The middle point, where I choose to hold my hammer, allows you to use your thumb and forefinger as a fulcrum around which that hammer can actually move. So all I do to hold an hammer is use my thumb and forefinger. These three fingers act as a support, like so. And what that allows me to do is to get extra speed in by closing my hand, like that. and it helps me create a whip. Helps me create the ball and chain effect. So we'll start off with holding at the bottom of the hammer. So you're going to bring your arm up, so the elbow comes into play and the shoulder comes into play, and as you drop your shoulder and elbow, open up that arm, you're going to strike there. Okay, so I'm going to stand to one side a little. Now the reason for this, these are 10 centimetre gaps. So either I'm in the edit going to slow these videos down, or you can use the little button on YouTube to play the video at a quarter speed. And that's a great thing to do for a lot of blacksmithing videos. There are videos of Hoffy using this technique where you can slow that video down and see exactly what it is that he's doing. But we'll get into the Hoffy style of swing in a little bit. So, holding the hammer right at the base. We don't have a lot of movement in the wrist, but there is a little. So the hammer comes up, elbow bends, shoulder rotates, and then it's that uncoiling that's going to give us this power. Okay, now you can swing faster and you'll get more force. Swing slower, you'll get less force. Kinetics is a major factor, and as a scientist again will tell you, if you can double your speed, you quadruple the amount of kinetic energy that this object carries. So the faster this hits your workpiece, the more energy you're going to impart into it. So it then becomes a question of how can you gain speed with a minimum amount of energy expenditure. So here you've got a longer distance to travel, you can get more speed in because of that longer distance, but you're also putting in more effort levering that up into a swinging position. If you hold the hammer in the middle, like I do, then by a slight alteration of your grip, you can actually add what I call whip, and this is what I was taught as the whip style. So the trick here is these are the only things that are actually holding your hammer. These act as support. So same thing, you're going to lift up and over your shoulder, but as your shoulder drops and the elbow extends, at the last moment the hand closes. And by closing your hand, you get an extra whipping speed. And again, speed is force. So, let's try it, okay? So bring your arm up, relax and open the hand. Those three fingers are just supporting. The hammer comes over the shoulder. Some guys you'll see they'll almost touch the shoulder with a hammer, and you uncoil like a ball and chain. Okay? Looks pretty dramatic, but proof, if needed, that style of swing can impart a tremendous amount of energy without a massive amount of expenditure of energy on my part. Just by dropping my arm under gravity, that last little swing still imparts energy. Okay, and if I actually put some effort into the swing as well, that's what I'm getting. That for me is less effort than this. Okay, there's no denying that you're getting energy from that, but it's also taking more effort for me to pick that up to then drop it. This way, because I can lift the hammer into my body, it takes less effort to pick up. I'm essentially curling my arm around that weight. I'm moving my arm around the weight as opposed to levering the weight up. So again, it's that flick. And then of course if we choke right up, okay? And then we have the Huffy style. Now that involves holding the hammer across your palm as opposed to into your palm. You've got a set amount of movement, and obviously your hammer's going to start contacting your arm there as well. So the Huffy style involves holding it across. So instead of being in line like that, you're actually holding it across like so. And the movement in your wrist there is what allows essentially what the whip style does by keeping a looser grip. You're allowing an extra movement which allows extra whip, extra speed, extra force. So, start down here. So the hammer's lifted up and the whip is in the wrist. And if you see the motion there, so again, we can come to the middle of the handle, and again, the whip is coming from the extra movement in the wrist. And as Huffy would say, we are throwing the hammer. We throw the hammer. And it's effective. Okay, now for me it's a little awkward and I've had broken wrists and stuff, so I find the Huffy style a little awkward and a little painful after a while. I prefer the whip style, but whichever style you prefer, what you're after is getting the most bang for your buck. You need to keep a relaxed hand and arm at the moment of impact. So you don't want to be pushing into the piece, because then your entire arm has got to absorb that shock. That's not going to be good for your arm. So you want to just hold on to the hammer enough so you don't throw it away, or that it doesn't run away on you. So what you should end up with is something that doesn't transfer any shock really to your arm at all. Even if you have a solid grip, an old-fashioned traditional style, you don't want any impact really transferring. So at that moment of impact, your hands shouldn't be tight. You shouldn't have a death grip, just enough to stop your hammer from running away. Now hopefully there's enough of a gap you can actually see the travel of that hammer. And that is literally just under gravity. I'm not putting any effort in that swing, I'm just letting the hammer drop. If I do the same with the whip, then the only effort is coming from the closing of my hand. Okay, and if we put effort in, that's your end result. Now, when we're working pieces and we're drawing tapers and other things, that hammer is going to be angled. So one of the other things that you can learn and practice is the hammer's not always going to be in a parallel to your arm. Sometimes it's going to be off. It's going to be off this way, or this way, or this way. Regardless of you can still use the whip technique. It doesn't alter how that hammer is going to hit. As you can see, that's striking at an angle. That's striking at an angle. All I'm doing is rotating it within my hand. If you've got a solid grip like that, you're actually going to have to bend your wrist to get the same effect. Now obviously I'm exaggerating for the sake of the video. It's a little more subtle than that, but it's still the same idea. And obviously if you need to hit with the toe or the top, you come over or you come under. Alright, now this is probably about a £2, maybe a £2.5 hammer. But as you can see, when you're hitting something that's not got a lot of give, you don't get much in the way of rebound. If you're hitting an anvil, you get lots of rebound. Hot metal won't give you a massive amount of rebound, but it will give you some. So what you should be aiming to do is, immediately after the point of impact, whether it's the Hoffy style, traditional style or the whip style, you want to be trying to flick that hammer back up. So literally at point of impact, you're flicking it back up. That way you bring the weight close into your body. It's a lot easier to lift the weight close into yourself than it is to have to overcome that levering effect. So again, if it's the Hoffy style, we're going to try and flick it back up, bring it into your body, then it's easier to lift. What I imagine that I'm doing is I'm trying to throw the hammer over my shoulder, and that way my arm curls around it. So the weight and the hammer itself almost stays in the same spot. My arm is rotating around the mass. I'm not levering the mass around in a big arc like this. That takes effort, and when you're swinging an hammer for 8 hours a day, it soon adds up. So I imagine I'm trying to throw it over my shoulder, and I just use my thumb, my forefinger, and as I get that rebound, I flick it, get under it. So you're literally rolling your arm around that hammer. And then just a case of practice. So you can hold your hammer at the bottom, the middle, at the top. The top is probably less efficient, and in certain circumstances you can have problems potentially striking your anvil with your hammer handle. But whichever you find comfortable and whichever works for you. Basically, there are definitely some wrong ways of swinging an hammer, but there's more than just one right way. So have a go at all of them, see which works for you, and then use that. But the name of the game is to get this mass moving as fast as you can, as efficiently as you can. And I think that whippy style allows me to do so. Your mileage may vary, but try it and see what you think. So there's a bit of hammer technique for you. Enjoy. stick.
It's all in the rest of that. It's not this. It's this. It's always